Welcome to the Stanford NGSS Assessment Projects course, evaluating student work from performance assessments to guide NGSS teaching and learning. This course is supported by generous funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The next generation science standards have inspired changes in every aspect of science education, which has led many educators to seek assessments for different reasons from those in the past. Assessments that simply evaluate what students know and don't know are no longer sufficient. Instead, they want assessments that reveal how students can use what they know to answer questions and solve problems in the world around them, and provide insights that teachers need to monitor and support their students' three-dimensional learning. This course was developed by the Stanford NGSS Assessment Project, or SNAP, a project of the Stanford Graduate School of Education and the Stanford Center for Assessment, Learning, and Equity. My name is Jill Wertheim, and you'll see and hear other members of the team throughout the course. The design process that we used during this course was constructed around a philosophical approach to assessment that rejects the idea that our goal is simply to find out what students have learned after a unit to determine what percentage of a body of knowledge they learned and what percentage they didn't learn. Instead, the assessment, wherever it falls in the instructional sequence, should guide a constellation of instructional moves intended to support the very specific needs of your students. Some students actually find the former version of assessment somewhat comforting. They play the game of school well. But just because they do well on them doesn't mean the assessments are playing a constructive role in their learning. Using assessments as part of the teaching cycle means that the rich data that can be gleaned from a performance assessment is used to ensure that students at all levels get the supports they need to improve their science learning, and that the assessment is sensitive to the diverse forms that this learning can take. We believe this approach to assessment is fundamentally about giving all students the opportunity to thrive in science classrooms. The SNAP assessment design process that we introduced in courses 2 and 3 to develop and revise performance assessments was framed around the goal of designing assessments that would be an integral part of science teaching and learning. Underpinning this goal is the philosophy that assessments should be designed to be part of equitable, inclusive, and responsive teaching practices. As we discussed in Course 2, our equity principles were threaded throughout each step of the development, starting with giving students the opportunity to confront questions and problems that they find challenging, meaningful, and important, but giving them the tools that give them the confidence to tackle those problems through including group work as part of the assessment process, such that the discussions students have with their peers can be treated as evidence of their progress, not just written work. And this evidence can transform a teacher's view of the nature of the student's learning in cases where those students struggle to communicate their learning through typical written tests. Opportunities to get feedback from the teacher, peers, and even self-evaluation, and to use this information to revise and improve their work is also designed to create an environment in which growth and ongoing learning are the priority, not just speed of recall of facts and terms. The assessments are designed to evaluate students on the strength of their reasoning, which allows us to value the diverse ideas and perspectives that the students bring to a phenomenon, instead of just evaluating about what they know and don't know. I won't go through each of the ways the development process you've been engaging in is designed for equity. The point is that the assessments built using the SNAP process were designed very intentionally to change the way students are assessed. But this only works if the rest of the system is designed to attend to the same principles. Assessments can't be made more equitable and instructionally relevant simply through the design of better tasks. The rubrics and how the tasks and rubrics are used is ultimately what centers and prioritizes student learning. So often, the systems used to score performance assessments are an afterthought, leading to evaluation systems that can inadvertently detract from or even entirely negate the quality of the assessment by reducing student work to a set of words and terms that the scorer is looking for. The same is true for how the assessment is used. A quality performance task can be used in ways that perpetuate the same inequities and biases as typical tests by doing things like making grades central to the assessment process instead of using the rich data students produce as opportunities to advance their learning. This course is intended to ensure that each piece of a system of assessment for learning is in place so that all students are supported in their science learning. In this video, we'll help you to understand how the entire course is structured and how the content of the course is organized across the 3 sessions. Let's start with the goals of the course. In this course, we'll focus on the last step of the design process, creating a rubric to efficiently collect meaningful information about your students' progress with 3D learning that can feed directly into instructional decisions. In Course 2, we address the first 2 steps of the design cycle using a principled design process to construct an assessment that could be embedded into instruction to support teaching and learning. We initially addressed this 3rd step in Course 3 when we analyzed and interpreted student products, but in that case, it was with the goal of looking back to the assessment to determine what was working and what wasn't, and why, so we could improve the assessment and ensure it meets our design principles. And specifically, we wanted to shine a light on the question of who it was and wasn't working for, and why, to improve it and ensure that it was meaningful and accurate measure for all students. In this course, we'll revisit the student work, and hopefully you've had a chance to collect a new set for your revised assessment. This time, we'll look forward, and in session 2 of this course, you'll use the student work to create a tool for your assessment that will help you quickly and efficiently analyze trends in your students' 3D learning. And in session 3, you'll complete the cycle by learning how you can use this rubric to craft feedback and instructional moves targeted to your students' specific needs. In fact, once the assessment is done and you no longer need steps 1 and 2, steps 3 through 5 become their own mini cycle that focus just on how the assessment is used. In this course, we'll focus much of our attention on how the products of the performance assessment can be used to monitor and improve 3D learning. And the rubric you'll be building is uniquely designed by Snap to match the rigorous quality criteria you've been using and to guide instructional decisions, seamlessly blending instruction and assessment into your classroom, following the steps in this cycle. So I just mentioned the 3 sessions of this course in the context of the design process for the whole course series, but let's briefly review the topics for the 3 sessions before you move on to session 1. In the first session, we'll provide an introduction to educative rubrics designed to center student learning and to support 3-dimensional reasoning, to give you some context for the design of the SNAP multidimensional rubrics. In session 2, we'll walk you step by step through the process of developing a multidimensional rubric for your performance assessment. We'll build them from your sample student work from pilot testing and the analyses that you did in Course 3. If you didn't take Course 3, we'll point you to just the part of that course that you'll need. Once you create your rubric, you'll modify it to make a student-facing version that you'll use in session 3. During session 2, you'll also meet with a peer group to get feedback on your rubric and make revisions. In session 3, you'll learn some strategies to efficiently use the multidimensional rubric you created as part of your planning around efficient and equitable assessment practices that center learning and growth, including planning next instructional steps, giving feedback, and even giving grades. Session 3 is really the culmination of all the work you've done throughout the course series. This is where you get to spend some time reflecting on how performance assessments can help you monitor and support your students, and how you can use these resources to work with your students to help them progress. There will be a final face-to-face meeting following session 3 where you do some of this reflection with other groups from your school or district. In session 1, you'll start learning about the different types of evaluation systems for NGSS and why SNAP has designed a new type of system specifically to support 3-dimensional teaching and learning.